Welcome to our discussion on ethics in strategic management, where we explore how organizations balance profit with responsibility. Over the next slides, we'll unpack core principles, real-world examples, and practical frameworks to help leaders make decisions that protect reputation, support stakeholders, and sustain long-term value for both business and society. This presentation will guide you through the fundamentals of ethics in strategic management, the theoretical foundations and stakeholder perspectives, leadership and culture, decision-making frameworks, legal considerations, and real case studies, giving a clear roadmap for integrating responsible practices into everyday strategy and operations. When we talk about ethics in management, we mean a guiding framework that shapes decision-making, a stakeholder focus that balances shareholders, employees, customers, and communities, and an integrity foundation that prioritizes transparency and accountability. The images here reflect collaborative conversations and planning that bring these principles to life in real organizational contexts. Balancing profit with responsibility supports long-term sustainability by attracting loyal customers and investors. It protects reputation by reducing scandal risk, and it delivers positive social impact through actions like environmental stewardship and fair labor practices, as illustrated by the Venn diagram linking people, planet, and profit into sustainable outcomes. A quick historical perspective shows how the Industrial Revolution sparked early corporate ethics concerns, how corporate social responsibility grew in the mid-20th century to emphasize a firm's role beyond profit, and how modern trends now push companies toward diversity, inclusion, and global sustainability goals that shape contemporary ethical practices. Utilitarianism frames profit decisions around the greatest good for the most stakeholders, encouraging leaders to weigh short-term gains against long-term consequences and to include risk assessments that prevent disproportionate harms to vulnerable groups, so profit maximization is evaluated through the lens of societal impact and sustainability. Deontological ethics focuses on duty and principles, asking leaders to follow consistent rules and prioritize honesty and fairness, regardless of outcomes, which means decisions should align with stated values and respect individuals, helping organizations maintain moral clarity even when facing pressure to prioritize short-term returns. Corporate social responsibility encourages companies to adopt environmental stewardship, invest in local communities through education and healthcare initiatives, and demonstrate ethical leadership by embedding socially responsible behavior into corporate strategy so that business success is linked to positive societal outcomes. Stakeholders stretch from employees, customers, and suppliers to investors, communities, and governments, with internal actors directly influencing operations and external ones shaping the broader environment, while hidden stakeholders like future generations or ecosystems remind businesses to think long-term beyond immediate financial metrics. Balancing stakeholder interests requires prioritization to align needs with the organization's mission, transparent communication to build trust and reduce perceptions of favoritism, and a willingness to accept trade-offs, such as forgoing short-term earnings to address social or environmental issues, as the meeting photos on the right suggest. Ethical dilemmas often emerge as conflicts of interest where gains for one group harm another as corporate influence concentrates power over smaller suppliers or communities, and as greenwashing risk when companies overstate sustainability claims. Navigating these dilemmas demands honesty, restraint, and mechanisms to hold practices up to scrutiny. Leaders play a central role in promoting ethics by setting a clear vision and values, holding themselves and others accountable through transparent processes, and fostering open communication so employees understand expectations and feel empowered to act with integrity in daily decisions. Building an ethical corporate culture depends on a robust policy framework with clear codes of conduct, ongoing ethics training to equip employees for complex situations, reward systems that recognize responsible behavior, and safe whistleblower channels that encourage reporting and prevent misconduct before it escalates. Real-world case studies show different paths. Some companies regain trust through decisive action, after crises by prioritizing safety. Others, like purpose-driven brands, align profits with environmental commitments to build loyalty. And multinational firms integrating sustainability demonstrate how ethics can drive long-term growth and consumer trust. Integrating ethics into strategy development starts with ethical alignment. So business plans reflect organizational values, incorporate stakeholder inclusion to bring diverse perspectives into decision-making, and embeds a sustainability focus that enhances reputation and ensures compliance with evolving global standards, as suggested by the world map illustration. Ethical risk assessment involves impact analysis to evaluate consequences for society, employees, and the environment, compliance monitoring to ensure legal and ethical standards are met, and scenario planning to simulate outcomes and prepare the organization to mitigate ethical dilemmas before they become crises. Common ethical challenges include conflicts of interest, when leadership decisions benefit a few at the expense of many, tough resource allocation choices between profit projects and community or sustainability investments, and transparency, dilemmas about how much information to disclose without compromising competitive advantage. Tensions between profit and ethical responsibility often arise from short-term shareholder pressure for quarterly gains, difficult resource allocation between financially driven projects and socially responsible initiatives, and reputation risk when ignoring ethics leads to public backlash and long-term damage that outweighs short-term profits. Models for achieving balance include the stakeholder model, which considers the needs of employees, customers, suppliers, and communities; the triple bottom line, which places profit, people, and planet on equal footing; and the shared value approach, which aligns core business strategies with societal progress to benefit both communities and profitability. Ethical practices deliver long-term benefits such as customer loyalty from consumers who support responsible businesses, market differentiation by appealing to socially conscious stakeholders, risk mitigation that reduces legal penalties and scandals, and stronger workforce motivation that attracts and retains employees who share the company's values. Compliance with ethical standards and laws requires companies to align business practices with legal requirements and fair competition, integrate ethical codes into daily operations to reduce misconduct risks, and invest in employee training so staff understand standards and help build a culture of accountability throughout the organization. Regulatory bodies contribute oversight functions to enforce laws and protect stakeholder interests, provide guidance and best practices to help companies align ethical objectives with legal requirements, and create deterrent impacts through strict enforcement and penalties that discourage unethical activity and promote compliance. When ethics fail, the consequences are severe. Reputational damage from scandals erodes consumer trust and brand loyalty. Legal repercussions such as fines or suspensions can cripple operations, and internal disruption can demoralize employees, increase turnover, and create a toxic workplace that undermines performance. A positive case study highlights a global company that prioritized sustainability in manufacturing, improved employee welfare through fair labor policies and safe conditions, and involved local communities in decisions, showing how these actions can enhance reputation, operational resilience, and shared benefits across stakeholders. A contrasting case study shows the costs of failing to comply with ethical standards, regulatory fines for environmental breaches, public exposure that damaged the brand and customer trust, and leadership shortcomings that allowed problems to persist, underscoring the need for accountability and proactive governance at the top. Different cultural perspectives teach valuable lessons. Collective well-being emphasizes societal harmony and policies benefiting communities. Transparency values stress open communication and fair reporting to build trust. And long-term indigenous visions encourage sustainable stewardship of natural resources for future generations. Thank you for joining this exploration of ethics in strategic management. As we wrap up, remember that aligning profit with responsibility requires consistent leadership, thoughtful frameworks, and ongoing engagement with stakeholders so organizations can build resilient, trustworthy, and sustainable strategies for the future.